We're building a product for end users. I'm agnostic to whatever blockchain they want to use. We just want to make sure that they can view their images in the best quality possible on the best screen as quick as possible.
Good morning, D.
Good morning, Dave. How's it going your side?
Good, man. How are you doing?
Good. Yeah, we made it. We're here. Episode 2. Episode 1 was a lot of fun. Hey, nice chatting to Paddy and catching up with him there.
Yeah, it is pretty fun. And I think our guest today is going to be an interesting one. Somebody that we've also known for a little while, and a super smart dude. He's doing some really interesting things that we'll get into. It's Aaron Arfman from Cur8, and the Cur8 display platform for digital art is quite a novel and exciting platform that empowers creators and collectors and anybody interested in seeing digital art in a beautiful way. So Aaron's going to tell us all about that. Let's start this off saying none of what we say is financial advice. Do your own research, people. Just do it.
Just do it. Don't fall in the trap.
Do you want to kick us off with an overview of Cur8?
Happy to do so. Just navigated over to Splash here, and we're going to click onto the Cur8 listing, which touts the only way to manage, display, and share your digital assets.
You see what he did there with the name. You see what he did there. Cur8, number 8, which is lucky, by the way.
Yeah.
It's lucky. Number 8's lucky. You sound like you got some activity going on in the background there, D.
Yeah. That's just a typical day in Cape Town CBD. All the sirens kicking off, getting ready. Right. All the police are mobilizing for the weekend's festivities. So apologize for the background interference there. But
is that related to the football at all, or is it just a typical weekend?
Oh no, that's just a typical everyday typical sort of background noise. I guess at this part, as a South African, it can be related to ambient noise, to be quite honest. That's the sweet lullabies that we fall asleep with every single
soundscape of the city.
Exactly.
Nice.
Exactly.
Nice.
Yeah, let's dive in with Cur8 here. So basically just taking a look at their listing here, and Cur8 Labs provide software and digital display solutions that meet the needs of creators, collectors, curators, and businesses across the world. Whether it's showcasing digital images in a gallery or museum setting, providing high-performance displays for businesses in the service industry, or developing innovative solutions for creators and curators, Cur8 helps bridge the gap between art and technology, creating seamless and immersive experiences for all stakeholders in the Web3 ecosystem. So that's a quick introduction as to what Cur8 is getting up to and their vision and mission. We've got a lot of posts here as well, so we can see Cur8's been keeping pretty active on the Splash platform. They also have the Monet token, which is the loyalty and rewards and recognition token for Splash, as well as the Cur8 ecosystem. And if listeners from the first episode can remember the conversation with the Cardano centers, Monet is also the loyalty and rewards token for that initiative as well. And I'm sure that we're going to be chatting a little bit more today about the utility of Monet in relation to the Cur8 platform. You'll see that they have an application. So this is the software side of the display technology that's being developed to help collectors and curators display their digital assets on Cardano, as well as some other blockchains that are looking to be integrated within the coming months. They have also submitted a Catalyst proposal, and as we know, Catalyst voting ended yesterday. So hopefully these guys will get in with a shot. And I guess we'll talk a little bit about that proposal with Aaron as well. And we can also take a look at some of their featured communities. You'll see the Cardano Centers is also a partner community there. And we'll talk to Aaron a little bit about what that relationship is in terms of the art display and screens that are being used in the center there, and how that collaboration looks. But that's a pretty quick look at the Cur8 ecosystem as it stands today. And I'm going to hand it over back to you, Dave, so that we can look to invite Aaron into the chat.
Cool. I have him in the lobby now. I figured out how to use the lobby button. And so he's waiting in the wings here. Let's see if he can join us now.
Hey, gentlemen.
There he is.
Hey, how are you, man?
Hey there.
Aaron.
Good. Thanks for having me on today, guys.
You bet. You did your hair for us.
Yeah. Better than you guys, huh?
Well, I've seen you many times where you've woken up and it looks like you've been like building, and you just do this and your hair's like, wow. So it looks like it's actually been brushed today. So thank you. Thank you for dressing up.
First time in a while,
That's the bolder look, and I'm just hiding the bald shame of middle age. Yes, we all have our ways.
Yeah.
We all have our ways. But yeah, lovely having you on, Aaron. It's exciting to chat to you today about Cur8, and it's good. It's going to be good to learn more.
Yeah, indeed.
So we just had Dee take a look through the Cur8 listing on Splash, and to give a bit of an overview of what the of what the app and what the vision for Cur8 is. And I guess let's hear it from your mouth, in your words. What is Cur8? What's it all about? What are you building?
Well, sort of taking it from the very beginning. I've been in the NFT space for quite a while, trying to see all the things that we've purchased over the years, and there's no good way to look at all of our beautiful arts and art collections and pieces. And the industry just needs it. So what we're trying to do is help everyone actually visually enjoy everything they own. But it's more than that. It's not just being able to display, put up on a screen. We're also helping people organize and sort and arrange and find pieces and collections that might interest them based on what they've purchased in the past. What got me started in this space was this one collection called Cardano trees. And there was all the hype early on, and these things evolve. They constantly are changing, and I just never could see any of them. And to this day, I've been waiting for my own platform to come up so that we can actually see how they evolve over time. So we hope to have this product for all collection lovers, so that they can see their evolving pieces and enjoy whatever they have in their collection.
Cool. And it's not then just for monkeys and kitties and punks. Is it more than that?
Yeah, well, it's optimized so you can see your kitties and monkeys and all that other stuff, but it's much more than that. So what we let you do is we're actually playing around with what we call the proper framing of your collection in so many respects. Framing meaning the organization, the sequence you'd like to see something in. It's also about actually putting in the right environment. So just around the time when the rage in NFTs was happening, I was actually painting every single day. And I was thinking of the best way to look at a collection. How should it be displayed? Because different sites have different ways of doing it. Some try to show you as many images as possible. Others might just show you a single image and flash through them to give you a sense of what's in the collection. But I actually have this display wall behind me. I had this huge wall of everything that I painted. And I said, well, that seems like an interesting approach to understand what's in your collection. So we actually designed the platform to let you play around with it. You can not only frame each individual piece, but you can organize them into a wall in many different ways. We call one version the multi-wall, where it's a wall environment with a number of images and different layouts, but you can also view it in a sort of a meta gallery type of environment, where we're building out dozens of different sort of environments you could look at, from your traditional gallery to being in a bar, a gallery in a spaceship, in the forest, whatever the mind could imagine.
Oh, that's I mean, that's awesome to hear, Aaron. I think I guess providing collectors or curators with that sort of variety and how they can display and view and experience and enjoy their art is definitely made possible by these Web3 technologies and sort of pushing the frontier of art. It's this digital renaissance. And you touched on something a little bit earlier with regards to, it's not just the displaying of the art, but the actual organization and categorization of art. And I mean, if we look at how traditional art has been categorized and the genres, what are the differences when you talk about how traditional art is categorized? And is it easy to categorize digital art and NFTs? And like, what are some of the challenges that you encountered with regards to organizing art? Because I mean, there's just so much out there. Any insights on that?
Yeah, it's been a challenge. You're trying to categorize this just new industry that's coming out with so many different types of digital imagery, whereas the art industry is use a categorization based on much more traditional standards between your paintings, traditional paintings and their styles, to statues. And what we're dealing with is not only just art styles, but we're dealing with this new genre of avatars and all those styles, and collectibles, where you can have anything from your weapons in a game to your vehicles to your upgrades. We have photographers. We have all different genres, because that's the thing about the blockchain, is it lets every creator or anyone load anything onto it. So what we're trying to do is help users really come and discover. We don't want anyone to come and say, I'd love to find a photograph, a black and white photograph, and have everything but a black and white photograph pop up, which is pretty standard for the industry right now. So it's the very beginning. What we did is we spent a lot of time going through about 7,000 different collections on Cardano to start with, where we have them all categorized. And every single day when there's a new collection coming in, we're spending a bit of time trying to figure out what is the right way to do it. So there's a couple of different approaches to it. A lot of other sites, what they're doing is they're actually allowing the creators to self-categorize. Whereas what we've done is we let them tag to a certain degree what they believe that the best categorization is. But we're also giving our own standard Cur8 category. And this is just going to be a lot more fun. This just lets you look at, if you just want to look at your photographs or listen to your music or find your movies, it should be very easy with your own collection, but also when you're going and trying to buy some new collections out there.
There's this interesting tension that exists in sort of the Web3 space, this tension between decentralization and sort of democratization and empowering every individual, and the traditional sort of Web2 top-down sort of hierarchical structures that we have. And you see from what you've been describing, if you let every single artist, for example, categorize any way they want, then what you end up with is just this infinite chaos of categorization, and searchability and usability becomes a real challenge here, because nobody's really setting a consistent protocol or a way of doing things, standards, right? And so it's interesting that we have this innovation, we have all this proliferation of creativity and this democratization of access to tools for creation and distribution of your creative content. But then we run into, chaos of how do we manage it? How do we make sure that people can use it? Because in order to make it usable from one community to the next, there have to be a certain set of guidelines or standards or ways of doing things. So do you see that as being something that is indicative of the industry broadly? Like, or are you seeing that from your perspective, looking at art in general?
Oh, I think it's across the board on all genres, and art is also quite it's still in its infancy as well in the digital realm. While there's been digital artists for decades doing their craft, finding ways to monetize it where they can sell to individual retail buyers has been a very, very niche market.
Yeah.
What we saw with the Fidenzas on Ethereum and a lot of these art platforms is there's a lot of demand and interest in it. But yeah, what we're doing is we're discovering that these artists, the digital artists, are now pushing the limits and creating new genres of art that we've never seen before. And so you're trying to manage the traditional styles along with the new styles and give your users the best directory to find what they're looking for.
Well, look, I'd love to, I really do want to talk more about specific styles of art and artists that you've come across and sort of where you see trends and what you think is really exciting. But you mentioned something that I think would be really interesting and relevant for the audience, especially the audience of creators, but the ability to monetize those works. So obviously, a small set of creators have been able to monetize it. You mentioned, Fidenza, Tyler Hobbs, obviously those pieces sold for enormous sums. Damien Hirst, you've got all these sort of these top tier, well-recognized artists that are able to monetize. But broadly, what do you see for the sort of the long tail artists or creators and their ability to monetize? And is that something that Cur8 is assisting with? Or how would your platform help an artist if it does?
Yeah, so we're both considering the more popular artists, but also trying to help smaller artists get into multiple different markets. Now, obviously, the most approachable market is trying to just build up your online community, find digitally native collectors who are interested in your craft and building up your profile there. But what we're also trying to do is create a mechanism through the ability to easily display on digital devices, plus adding on rental models. So what we believe is in the future, an artist now can start working with local vendors, restaurants, hotels, bars, and so on. And just how we've seen it in the past with traditional painters going in and displaying it in the cafe and maybe selling it on the walls. Well, now they're going to be able to start going and creating displays and galleries throughout their own hometown if they like. And as they build up more of a following, they could do exhibitions not only in their hometown, but in somebody else's hometown across the sea. And so what we're trying to really do is find ways for all kinds of artists to build their following through the accessibility of their art. In the past, it was you paint it once and you sell it to one buyer, and that's the only person who gets to enjoy it. And we don't want to limit that if that's what they want. We're more than happy to. But if they want to get larger distribution, well, digital is the best medium. Because now we can, as we said, display it in everyone's home if we want at the same time.
Yeah, and the cost of distribution is near zero, right? In terms of actually moving that. I actually spoke with Emil Dogan, who I believe you know at Tech Contemporary. He's the art director there at Tech Contemporary, and they've been using the Cur8 platform to show. And one of the things that we spoke about is the ability to change exhibitions, right? On a basically push of a button, you can set up a whole new exhibition for a whole new artist, or you basically dematerialize the whole art curation and art exhibition experience when it is digital, and so that's one of the advantages. What other, if you think about the art world and you think about the experience of art, both for collectors and the way that curators and exhibitions display art, what are you seeing as some of the advantages that digital art is offering and platforms like Cur8 are enabling? And what are some of the disadvantages and advantages, I guess, of digital art versus traditional? Because that seems to be very much part of the dialogue.
Yeah, well, we've seen this happen through all the different type of medium recently, from your newspapers to video content, and the ability just to easily change and view what you want at any moment in time. I believe that the days when your walls are going to be filled with pieces of art that you bought 20, 30 years ago likely will change in the future, because we all like consuming something different every day. It might be you have a different taste of what you want to look at. You might have a special event at home. I just believe that with this, it allows your walls to come alive in different ways. It shows off. If you are an art lover, you can show your art collections, and if you're a gamer, you can show off your favorite weapons and guns and
right.
and whatnot on the screen. Yeah. But
and that generation may want that. That's a flex, right? If you've got this incredible epic weapon or an epic, sort of skin from a game, and if you are, a millennial, you may want that up on your wall so that when your buddies come over, they can, it's a flex, right?
Exactly. But then you think about the future. How do you show your wine cellar digitally so that you can flex that? Or you have a collection of your favorite baseball or basketball cards, which are not going to be the traditional type. It might be more videos, more of a video type of card. How do you get to see those and show them all?
Well, that's a good segue, and we didn't get into this at all, but your background is not in art per se, right? You said that you were painting as part of something that you were doing when you got into this business, but you've got a background in a broad range of different industries, and you and I go back quite a few years to the early days of China, where we met when we were in the green tech industry and as entrepreneurs and financiers in green tech. So give us a bit of background. Where'd you grow up, and what was your journey that brought you to this space?
Yeah. So I'm from Wisconsin, raised in Milwaukee, and
cheesehead.
I'm a cheesehead, big Packers fan. Wish the Bucks were doing better, but I got the travel bug pretty early and started looking to explore the world. I lived in Budapest for a while, lived in France for a couple of years, but eventually found that I was looking for something even more innovative and exciting, and the next calling was the wild East, China. That's where, in fact, all of us lived for a little while. Spent a decent amount of time in Beijing and also Shanghai, and worked in a number of different industries because China just gave us those types of opportunities. You could, lots of people were English teachers, but you could easily become whatever you wanted, and worked across a number of different industries, from selling wine to working for a venture capitalist, working with a state-owned enterprise in the steel industry. And eventually what got me to this space was through the big fintech industry that was built in the mid 2010s, where the peer-to-peer lending industry was really growing. And so I got into that space for a number of years and started getting into a number of the conferences where initially it was all peer-to-peer lending and payment solutions using traditional payment rails, but not using the banks. And you had a couple of crypto and blockchain businesses there. To a few years after, peer-to-peer was so passe and it was all blockchain oriented. And it really got me quite interested. In fact, the first conference I went to, is in Hong Kong. and listened to everything about Bitcoin. And that's the first time I heard about Cardano as well. This is back in, I believe, 2018 when Charles Hoskinson was in town. And so that piqued my interest. And I've been following Cardano and the broader ecosystem ever since.
On that note, what's your view of, let's get into that. Cardano, other chains, like how are you seeing that play out? It seems that the tone, at least for some chains, is breaking down this tribalism, right? So there's sort of, I think most people are acknowledging there's a cross-chain interoperability. That's got to be the way to go. But of course, there are some that are still very, just bitchy on Twitter and condescending and sort of tribal in their own way. So exactly. What do you see about that conversation? What side of that do you sit on? You're in deep with Cardano because you got in early, presumably. Is there something else about Cardano that you love? And then how do you view sort of that whole future in terms of cross chains and interoperability?
I really like the ethos of Cardano. I have since the very beginning. I like the mentality, the idea of keeping the blockchain as decentralized as possible at the top level, top security levels. But what I've learned a lot as we've been building out Cur8 is we're building a product for end users. We're building display technology and a distribution model for creators of all types. I'm agnostic to whatever blockchain they want to use. We just want to make sure that they can view their images in the best quality possible on the best screen as quick as possible. And so what our ethos will be is, while we started with Cardano, you have to start somewhere. And we believe that Cardano is a great place to start because it's a very vibrant ecosystem, huge NFT market. It has a lot of the integrations that are needed to create a very good product. And it really gives us a great stepping stone to go to other blockchains where they do have also very vibrant creator ecosystems, likes of Ethereum, Tezos. But we want to go anywhere where they have collections that need to be viewed. We actually spend a lot of time looking at each ecosystem and inquiring and surveying how people view their collections. And it's really, really sad, this current state, where people are spending tens of dollars, hundreds of dollars, thousands of dollars to view it on a very, very small mobile device, potentially in their wallet. Lots of them are going to marketplaces just to view their own collection. So you get to see your all your pieces mixed together. But there's no way to really organize and view them. And this is consistent from, I would say, the smallest blockchains, definitely, even to the largest ones like Ethereum. There's very, very few options for collectors.
Why do you think? Why do you think you haven't seen these types of tools like Cur8 emerge in other ecosystems? For example, the Ethereum ecosystem, which is a lot larger, a lot better funded than Cardano or some of these other ecosystems, or Tezos, which claims to be the art chain. Why haven't you seen the sorts of problems that you're seeing being solved in those ecosystems? Why is that? Is there some insight that you had, or you look at the problem differently, or is it just that we're so early in the game that there's lots of opportunity for innovation? Or how do you think that?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think it's just that the market is really, really small. So while there's been millions and millions of NFTs created, the actual collector base in most of the smaller blockchains at this stage it's probably in the hundreds to thousands. Ethereum, who knows what the exact number of holders is? I don't have it at the top of my head, but anywhere from 50,000 to 250,000. So it's just a very, very small market. And the current solution is it seems good enough. We've heard a number of people say, just put on any type of screen and view it that way. But it's through our experimentation when you get the right speaker for your music, you can tell a difference. When you get the right screen for your art, you can tell a significant difference. And that's what we're really focused on. It's making sure that the screen is optimized for the pieces and the vibrant colors that are very common in this space. So what's that mean? You have to have really high contrast screens. You want to make sure that they're anti-glare, so you can have your spotlights on the screen, but you can still see it. You should be able to view the image from almost 180 degrees. But one and probably the most important thing that I've personally seen is when it's a TV with an image on it, it still looks like a TV. What we're so used to with art is having it properly displayed. It's properly placed with the right frame. And in the case of digital images, the right frame is actually the screen. It should be flush against the wall. We also feel that it should be framed. There should be a proper frame around it. And when it and one other thing that after going to dozens of these exhibitions, too often the artist will put their image on a screen and it might not fit properly because all screens are 16 by 9 dimensions, but the images, over 50% of them are actually square. So if you have all this empty space, this black space, it just doesn't look right. And so what we need to do is find proper ways through the screens, but also through the Cur8 platform to make sure that those are zoomed in properly. And when we went to this one exhibition in Copenhagen and showed off when the image is properly fitted on the screen, lots of people didn't understand it was actually a screen. They thought it was just a very vibrant painting. And when we went the next day to another crypto conference that was just using, I believe, as a Samsung screen, and the images weren't properly framed in it, it looks so different. The artists actually didn't even recognize their pieces when it's not on the right when it's not on the right display. So I think it's to summarize, I think it's just we're so early in this space. There's so few collectors. There's still not that demand, but they also haven't seen the right solution yet. And when they will see this type of solution, either from us, but the other guys, other businesses getting in this space, I think their minds will change.
Yeah. Well, let me put on my investor hat and say, and ask about your description of the market size, that it's quite small right now. But you're obviously investing, and we should talk about Anywall specifically because you did make reference to the hardware, and that's the Anywall business. So we should talk about that specifically. But with respect to the overall market sizing that you've described, and it's maybe total, if we include Ethereum as 90% of the market, it's maybe 300,000, 400,000, maybe not 500,000 actual collectors or holders, right? So why do you think that it's a good investment opportunity for you to spend your time and effort and energy and the team to focus on this if it's such a small market? You see the market growth as sizable, and where do you see that coming from, and what sort of time frame?
Yeah, so part of the reason that I thought this was a viable market is because living in China, we saw how retail has evolved so quickly. I think it's evolved much quicker than other spaces where basically every wall has become a digital screen. You have it in subways, you have it in retail, you have it in restaurants. And so
elevators.
We just see elevators everywhere. You have digital screens. So it's a natural trend that people are going to want this. And I think people are going to get sick of looking at advertising all the time. And when you can connect with the piece and view the piece that you want, not only, as we said earlier, will these venues want to start displaying new creative pieces, but I also think that people will start to realize that they can also do this themselves at home. We saw every industry that went from an analog version to a more digital version, and those trajectories. And we're probably a few years away from that J curve, but we're getting there. And when that happens, I would expect all businesses and a lot of individuals to start buying displays and viewing their pieces at home. So yeah,
And they're
super
going to
positive.
need software for it.
Exactly, you need the software for it. So the way we sort of look at it is, why don't we try to become that Spotify of display right now before it becomes too popular.
Yeah, the way that Spotify, again, democratized both discovery and distribution of audio content, essentially, and then has really become ubiquitous, hasn't it? Right? Restaurants, in the Tesla car, like it's Spotify everywhere you go. Somebody's streaming some playlist from Spotify. There's a really interesting, being that platform that is the distribution, platform, is super powerful, both from a content curation perspective, right, as much as anything, right? Your ability to be on the front end and essentially to deliver the content means that your relationship with creators and the sort of value that you can deliver to creators is really extraordinary. So when you're building these products, which side of that equation are you really focused on? Are you saying, like, look, it's about end users, and so the end users are the viewers or the audiences, the experiencers of the art, but also there's another important side of the market, which is actually the content, right? If the content isn't compelling, then there's no reason for somebody to be a user. So how are you, when you're doing your product design development, like how are you thinking about that two-sided marketplace challenge?
Yeah, well, obviously we need to make the user experience for the collectors the best. If they have the most seamless way to organize and sort and view and display, and lastly to discover, then you can become the place that people want to go to. Right now, it's because it's still a very nascent industry. You might have to go to like 2-3 different platforms to do all those things. You got your marketplace where you buy, you got your viewing site where you look at it. You have your wallets where you manage it, and then you probably have a couple of other sites like the creator's website and all their social channels. So there's just so many. It's so fragmented right now. So becoming that. Trying to consolidate a lot of those tools into a single tool is probably the primary objective we have. But by doing this, we're actually making it also easier for the artist, because the creator right now also has to navigate so many new platforms. So they might be coming from a very traditional art background into this new space, and wow, they got so much to learn, from opening up a wallet to getting crypto to minting and everything. And even the digitally native creators still need to learn about that ecosystem. So if we can make it just easier, single platform that provides all those services, we think that artists will naturally want to come as well, because the collectors will be there. And then I guess the last point is, this industry is so different than other industries. In the traditional art space, you need to onboard each artist to the platform in order to have content. But because the blockchain is completely distributed, you can just call anything from the blockchain and provide that in your offering. So on day one, we can actually already have a collection of up to 7 million NFTs that are available for sale. And it's all about making sure that, as I said, collectors can find them easily.
Yeah, interesting. So yeah, if you create the market in a sense, with the best viewing experience, then artists naturally want to go there. Because they want their art to be viewed in the most beautiful and compelling way, but also because that's where the customer is, right?
Exactly. And I guess the
Yeah.
sort of the longer term vision of what we're trying to achieve is we think that there's two components to two revenue streams for creators. One is the initial sale of the pieces, but depending on sort of the terms and conditions of that sale, they can also distribute it, the visuals out and make revenues on rentals. So if we can allow these creators to create um, uh, basically a display list, or we call it a gallery, and have renters come on that want to display that art. Well, I might not be able to afford a Fidenza at $100,000, but I love to look at his top pieces and show them off at home, and I'm happy to pay for just how I'd pay for a rental movie or rent a music album.
Yeah. How do you address that criticism that these are just JPEGs that can be recreated, or they're just video files that can be recreated? And I've had that conversation, as you know, with many people, but I'd love to hear it from your perspective, because if you love the Fidenza, it's on chain, man. You can view it if you want to, right? You can get that file and you can have a look at it. So why is that? Why do you think somebody is going to come to a rental market and actually rent it when they can try and view it on their own?
Yeah, there's always going to be that bootleg market where people don't want to pay for a service, but we've seen it across all industries. People are willing to pay, especially when there's a level of convenience. Look, to go and create a nice display list will take you time and money. I actually tried to do it a few times. It cost me about a couple $100 to just get one done properly. And so, you can. It's not a problem. But you're actually probably going to be saving money if you want to do it nicely, using a platform that like Cur8 that helps create the display list that you want to view with all the integrations. And now, rather than you spending money to create a one-time playlist, you're going to be paying the creator for their art.
Yeah, my example is always, if you look at the early days of MP3s, well, first of all, they were really shitty quality, so nobody really cared about them. But then as they improved in quality and we got the ability to deliver a better bit rate and higher fidelity, you had all these torrent files, right? And the same thing with film or movies. So on the MP3s, you had all these torrent files, but it was so dodgy to go and use these. It was really really difficult user interface. And then we had Napster come out and you're like, oh, that's easier. So we started using Napster, right? Still a free service essentially. But then we had Spotify, and we've gravitated to the one that is most convenient, that is legal and is actually rewarding artists, although there's some criticism about the way that they share revenue. But we do, as users and consumers, migrate to what's easy, even if it's only, even if we have to pay for it, as long as the economics are relatively reasonable. And there's obviously, as a business, you've got to get into the price discovery of what the market will pay, what you can command. And we saw the same thing with movies, right? And moving from torrent files of movies to platforms like Netflix. And so possibility for us moving in this space. Tell us about the types of art that are exciting to you. You mentioned Cardano trees, and I've actually had a chat with the creator of Cardano trees. Really, really interesting. And there's some interesting potential about what can come next with that style of art. But tell us about Cardano trees, why it fascinated you, and what else you see out there that is really interesting. Or do you even have time to look at art now? I know you're up to your eyeballs in building out this platform.
There's not much time to look at it these days. Yeah, but what fascinates me about that genre, the Cardano trees, and what this generative art genre is that they're given significant constraints to work on the blockchain. So these guys all have had a belief that rather than uploading an image that's linked via the blockchain, they actually wanted to put the entire image or the file on the blockchain. But Cardano, like many of the other ones, have limited space. And there's a cost. Some just limit outright, and others there's just a significant cost if you want to use it. So they're given basically about 16 kilobytes of space to come up with an image. And so they really pioneered ways to use these massive constraints, but still create something that can be interesting and innovative. And they continue to push this space in ways that we've never seen. I guess initially was sort of like a screensaver in a way, but now it's become a lot more sophisticated and complicated. And so that's what's really interesting. We've seen this new genre of art that didn't really exist before. And what's going to happen next? And we're just sort of waiting to see what's possible.
Art is so fascinating when you get those sorts of constraints, right? Like there's this one author, I sort of early in my life, I was a poet and I was sort of doing some poetry readings and shows. I did very visual poetry in Toronto. And there's this one writer, this one poet in Toronto called Christian Bach, and he wrote this book called Eunoia. And each chapter in the book only used words with a single vowel in them. So for example, the first chapter was chapter A. Every word in that chapter only used words with A. There were no other vowels in that chapter. He did the same thing with E, I, O, U. And it was incredible because every single chapter, for example, he put these other constraints on himself, which was every chapter had to describe a feast. Every chapter had to describe a nautical disaster. So for example, in E, it was like elite Greek fleet, blah, 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 whatever he would do. But it created this incredible poetry. And what you appreciated was, sure, the beauty of the language as he wrote it, but you appreciated the craftsmanship and the skill of being able to deliver something that was compelling with just such tight constraints. So the 16 kilobyte limit on the code for generative art, as you said, some of the original stuff that I did look at looked like old screensavers. It was sort of like, low res bit, sort of 8-bit sort of, graphics, but it's evolving quite well. And one of the artists that I know you follow as well, Charles Machen, has some incredible pieces that are coming out that are super beautiful. And he comes from a special effects background. So that makes sense. But yeah, there's some really super beautiful things that are coming down the pipeline. What else is interesting for you that you've seen?
What I'm really excited about it is how do you also take images, non-static images, and where can those evolve? So we've seen Amoma, who just recently purchased a piece or two with Rafiq's pieces, and it's fascinating, especially when you're given the size of these screens. They're taking up an enormous amount of space. So what we're talking about with Cur8 in the first iteration is just your standard LCD screen, maybe up to 100 inches. But over time, where do you take this? What type of stage can we build this out to? Probably not on LCD, but the likes of LED and other types.
The Vegas sphere, maybe.
Vegas sphere. Imagine viewing it there, just playing it away, right?
Yeah. Charles has got these replications of solar flares. It looks like the surface of the sun in super beautiful detail. Imagine that on the Vegas sphere, right? You've actually got the surface of the sun, sitting there from only 16 kilobits of code. It's pretty incredible. One of the artists that we're going to be chatting with here shortly that I know you ran into when we were in Copenhagen was DVK, the artist, and the things that he's been doing with artificial intelligence, but really driving his own proprietary algorithms to create these super, super high def, imaginative, and really quite beautiful pieces that we saw at Enter Art Fair as well. And that's I think that's what you're referring to when some of the people that would stop and go, "Oh my gosh, that's actually a screen," when it looks like these beautiful, very vibrant paintings. And DVK, in addition to those static pieces that he did that we saw there, He's got some really beautiful video loops that he's done that are algorithmic video loops that he's done, and he's put music to them. So they're actually like multimedia installation type pieces that actually you can view. So that's one category of digital art that I find really beautiful and quite compelling.
But I guess one other point I'd like to make is it's sort of we're always thinking about how do you make the experience that much more immersive. Right within an NFT, you can put whatever you want into it. You could put as much text as you want, as many files as you want. But what you want to do is find ways to indeed make it as interesting and entertaining. How do we replace that current gallery experience where, you want to look at all the pieces, but then you have to get the rental audio tour? Well, we want to see how can we actually put the audio with the image, with an AR experience, with other multimedia experiences, so that when you own this or when you want to display it, you can offer different experiences for different user bases. So you could just look at the image, but if you have somebody pull up their phone and scan it, they could have, for example, Morgan Freeman narrating what this piece is about, or having an AR experience with it, or literally buying the piece off the wall, and that will come with another type of multimedia experience. So it won't be exactly that piece, but it might be another piece. And that's what we're really excited about, seeing where artists, creators can take it, but how do you work together with all the sensory components to make it that much more exciting. And that's where we see it being different than a JPEG, right? It's not something that you can then just copy. It's going to be this full experience that needs to not only be in the blockchain, but it has to be integrated with all these different multimedia tools, from displays to speakers to mobile phones.
And those tools will rely on the authenticity of that piece, almost like in a licensing way. Yeah. And so a JPEG copy of it's not going to enable all of that richness.
Exactly.
Yeah. Hey, what do you see happening for the bridging with the real world of art, or with physical art? And we're looking at tokenization. There's a couple of platforms doing tokenization. One of the things that I found interesting when speaking with gallery owners about their art collections is storage is a nightmare, right? Actually storing these pieces is a nightmare. And also we've had some conversations with folks looking at all of these pieces, these really valuable pieces that are being stored, for example, in Singapore or Dubai, in these tax-free sort of storage areas. Well, do you see that as being an opportunity for collectors or even museums or galleries who are often capturing their assets in a high def format? Is there an opportunity there for them to mint those as NFTs and then maybe make use of platforms like Cur8?
Yeah. So what could happen here is we're actually planning on working with a couple of museums to digitize their collection or use their existing digital collection, but tokenize them, allowing them not only to be discovered in a new channel. All right. So imagine you now have your display and you might want to look, you might have a limited collection yourself and you want to look for some nice pieces of art. Well, why not use the museum's pieces as well? And what's quite interesting about this aspect with the rental model that we're conceptualizing is, why not let them create these galleries or these display lists that can be rented? So you're now giving not only viewers of these pieces more options, more selection than what they had before, but you're also giving galleries and museums additional revenue models for things that might just be stored in their storage area, because more often than not, I would guess that a lot of museums are only displaying less than 10% of their entire collection. They're just
Yep. Because they don't have the space, the physical space for one, right? And they also, the cost of setting up and tearing down is very, very
Exactly.
expensive, and of maintaining these pieces, especially the very expensive pieces, and the risk associated with moving and installing and tearing down. So that's something that digital art can certainly help to address. I don't think we've talked really about AnyWall or some of the other businesses that you've been involved in around Cur8 and around digital art, because Cur8 was certainly the initial project that you started working on. And then we saw the partnership or the investment in the AnyWall screens. And I know also that you guys are active as Monet Society members, as we are in the Great Wave. So maybe talk us through AnyWall. Sort of what's that business about? You've talked about the displays, but what's the relationship there? Is that a partnership? And then maybe talk a little bit about Monet and what the relationship is with the Monet Society and with the loyalty token.
Yeah. So first of all, with AnyWall, Cur8 started off as purely a software solution, and it's nice to be able to display on your monitor or Chromecast it to another screen. But what we very quickly discovered is just the difference between the right viewing experience. And we found our partners in AnyWall, where we're designing, manufacturing, and marketing a very unique solution, which is going to have a full integration with Cur8. So you come on, you curate whatever collection you want, and you can easily push it to the screen. This allows you at home to go and view whatever you want. But also, we're working with a number of galleries as well, so that they can come up with a collection to display at whatever exhibition they want. So that's what the arrangement is with AnyWall. We're really working at starting to sell through or partnering with galleries, so that we can first let users see the difference of and the experience, and then selling to retail clients through those galleries when they buy their art. So there's going to be a couple of options with the AnyWall solution. And number one is obviously the Cur8 integration. But if you just have a JPEG and you want to throw it up there, you can view that piece through a memory stick. But AnyWall in its own right is also going to be building out a huge library of content, so that if you don't want to necessarily view tokenized assets, you can also view other types of visual media. So that's
Nice.
AnyWall. Your second question was about Monet. Yeah, so with Monet, we just sort of really believe in that vision and mission of Monet, and we're integrating with them in a couple of ways. Number one is Monet members will get basically free subscriptions or discounted subscriptions when they're using Cur8. So now you can have more access to all the premium features. Rather than paying an annual membership, you can just, if you're a holder, you'll get access. It's also going to be a way for collectors to get whitelisting or priority access to new collections. It's also going to be used by creators to position themselves in the shop. So we're going to have featured positions, and that will be based on a combination of a number of factors, including Monet. Another interesting thing about the Monet ecosystem is just that they think a little differently about how to onboard multiple platforms that can work off of one another. And so we're actually going to be using the Monet login, which allows our users, when they log in on Cur8, to also easily register on any other partner sites where they don't need to re-register again. So we're really,
Awesome.
We still believe that a lot of users are used to that Web 2 type of approach where you log in via email.
Really?
Well, we're going to use that, but hopefully make it so it's not as inconvenient where you need to create another dozen accounts in this Web 3 ecosystem.
Yeah. I remember early days talking about Cur8 sort of in the formative days when we were talking about it. And there was a clear conversation we had where it's just like, oh gosh, I'm not going to do hardware. Yeah, why do hardware? Our software can sit anywhere. We don't have to do hardware. Let the other guys do hardware, because hardware is hard.
Yeah.
So that change of attitude, was it because from your perspective, was it because the Anywall guys sort of were well along that path, and that sort of allowed Cur8 to develop that necessary higher end premium solution, more quickly and with a team that could help execute on it, or was it something else that really drove the decision to say, okay, we're going to get into hardware ourselves?
Yeah, it's definitely hard. It takes about 3 to 6 months every iteration you want to go through, versus software, you can get it out quickly. But I mean, ultimately, what we're really trying to achieve is, we believe that creators need the best environment and ecosystem to go and improve their sales, to improve their distribution. At this stage, people are quite reticent of buying NFTs, and what we're trying to do is sell. Yeah. We're not an NFT platform. We're a visual platform that's giving you the best way to organize and display, and obviously a lot of it's through tokenization. But we believe that in order for people, for mainstream users to understand the value of buying digital art, they need to have that visual experience. And Anywall was moving along and had a prototype, and we decided that that's the partner we wanted to work with. And so, we've been working actively with them for the last almost year, and have a number of exhibitions planned over the next 12 months. And we hope to bring along creators from all ecosystems, not just Cardano, but all the blockchains, because we believe that if a creator has beautiful art, it doesn't matter necessarily where they sell. What we need to do is bring a market to them. Yeah. And so we need viewers and art collectors to come into this space for this really to become a much more vibrant ecosystem. Right.
Well, I think we have a few questions from the audience, Dee, but before we get to that, let me ask you one question, and it's related to NFT as a term and the baggage that it has, because I know in some of the conversations that we've both been involved with, you say that term and people just turn their nose up, right? Yeah. With the language of NFTs, they just think it's about shilling these projects. There's so many scams associated with it. So when you think about NFTs and you think about how would you explain it to your mom, right? If she's asking you, like, why NFTs? Why do I need a picture of a monkey? Why do I need a picture of a kitty cat that's 8-bit sort of graphics? How would you explain NFTs to somebody that was asking the whys?
Yeah, I'm still working on that. I still haven't convinced her yet. Right. Yeah, NFT. We try to avoid in all ways from all marketing. We actually just call it digital tokens, or sometimes digital assets. What we want to tell people is the benefit of a token. The way that we're building our business it's twofold. Number one is we're going to be authenticating who the original creator was, and that this asset is truly unique. Because it's a unique asset, that then lets you also understand who to allocate all revenue streams to in the future. So the art has to be beautiful. If it's ugly art, this is a useless technology. You have to start with that. But what we're trying to do is make it so it's easy for people to understand if you own the original, who owns it, and if there's any monetary benefits, who should be receiving it. So the biggest challenge, I guess, with my parents' generation is just the acceptance of digital art as art. Once they do accept that, I think if for everyone it makes sense that obviously using token technology is probably the best
Yeah.
technology to use, bar none.
Yeah. Yeah. One of the things that I'll say to people when they say, Web3 is too complicated and you need to use this blockchain or you need to use this tool. It's true, I think, in any industry, but it doesn't. You don't really get adoption until the technology disappears, right? I'm not the first to say that, but I think it's very true that people don't really, at the end of the day, care what these things are built on, right? I don't really need to know how my computer functions, what chipsets are in there. I'm like, okay, great, it's the good one, it's the new one. That's all I need to know because it's going to be better. Great. I don't need the ins and outs of it. And at the end of the day, NFT, a non-fungible token, it became jargony and it became associated with those first uses, which were those hyped up images. But ultimately, it is just that technology layer, isn't it? It really is just that substrate, or in the language of art, it really is just the canvas that you are putting this piece of creative work on top of, and it's that underlying substrate to the actual asset itself. And that's why it's important, because that's what you pick up and you move. That's what you sort of can share. That's what you associate ownership with, right?
Yep.
It gives an actual asset that can be immutable and transferable. It gives it that foundation.
That's right. Exactly.
Yeah, I wanted to follow up on your question there, Dave, about how do you normalize it with sort of the layman and everyday folk. And one thing that you touched on, by the way, Aaron, everything that you've been talking about is fascinating, and it's really interesting to see where digital art and the display technologies are taking things. But just tying it back into normalizing it in a sense, you did mention that outside of the actual hardware being a frame for the NFT, that you're also creating frames for the NFTs. Can you explain that? Is it a digital frame, and why did you decide to do that outside of just using the NFT in itself?
Yeah, it's funny. It all it takes is just putting a frame, a boundary around your piece. Because oftentimes when you're looking at an image, you'll just have an image and a black background with no border. And it sort of feels like it's in space. But if you're able to create this sort of enclosed space, which we've done for a long time with traditional art, not only that, it also further enhances. It's like the salt and pepper. It adds a little extra flavor to the piece. So what we are experimenting with was a couplefold. It's seeing, all right, a single piece. Can you make it look a little nicer just on a screen? Imagine you have a square piece on a landscape screen. So you get all this black space. It sort of looks empty. Well, what happens if you put a frame around it? Well, it starts to pop a little more. You haven't fully solved the problem, because on both sides you're going to have a bit of empty space. But then what we did is we experimented with different types of environments. So the next one we did was one of these so-called metaverse type of displays, a metaverse gallery, and everyone is creating these. But if you have just a piece sitting on a wall, it looks a little awkward again. Now, if you put a frame around it, and we're going to be building out 3D frames as well, it just looks completely different. It can make your monkey look even more sophisticated. It can enhance your piece of art. It just looks really nice.
It's a message, right? It's basically, you've got this piece hanging on the wall, and if somebody has taken the time to actually put a boundary around it, it's a message that this needs to stand out. This has importance, right? This is something that you need to look at. It's literally telling you that story and drawing your eye to it for that reason, right?
That's right. And one other fun thing about the digital frame side is, whereas the physical display, it might be limited to metals and woods. Digital, it's endless. So initially we're trying to replicate just wood frames and metal frames, and we're doing traditional Oriental frames. But then you start opening up your mind, and you're like, well, I could make this frame out of anything. I could make it out of spaghetti or other food items. I could make it out of barbed wire. I could make this the most dangerous frame in the world. I can have it. I can have this as a ray of light frame. So it just opens up your mind. And we hope that our artists coming on board will also become our frame designers, so that now an artist can not only design the piece inside, but its surroundings as well.
Yeah. Yep. Cool. Yeah. Step 1, cut a hole in the box.
Yep.
Step 2, put the NFT in the box.
So D, let's go ahead. And I think we had a couple questions from some audience members, didn't we?
Yeah, let me open those up. I just want to say I really think the whole framing concept really just helps to bring a lot more familiarity around the concept of displaying digital art because of how people conceptualize and understand traditional art. So really think that's a great move. And it's probably going to help ease the transition for a lot of the people that believe it's just JPEGs, right? It's just something to supplement and contribute and to amplify to a piece of art that makes it that much more better and more interactive and engaging and impactful. So that's awesome. But we got some audience questions here. And the first one comes from France. And Sicario asks, how tall are you, Aaron?
That's an interesting question.
Sicario, let's full disclosure, Sicario is one of the mods, right? In some of the channels, isn't he? He's part of the community.
Cool. He's the splash moderator in Discord, and that's his question.
That's an interesting one. So I'm 6'5", or 196 centimeters, and I sort of stuck out for many years in China.
Absolutely. Do you get that? Because a lot of your work is obviously done online. And so folks like Sicario and some of the other devs or partners that you work with, they never actually see you. And 6'5" is certainly above average height, quite a bit above it. So do you get a lot of surprises when you first meet people?
Yep.
Because you're always sitting down, right, on the screen.
Exactly. Yeah. They always say, I thought you were short, but there's a try.
Awesome.
Awesome. Okay, well, Sicario, hopefully that answers your question. And the next one comes from Singapore, and Shannon asks, do you have any advice for gallerists or collectors on how to discover new and upcoming artists?
Oh, good question.
Interesting. Well, yes, eventually it's going to be on Cur8. That's why we called it Cur8, because here's the biggest problem. There's so many artists and creators out there. It's very, very, very difficult to find what you're looking for. And gallerists and curators have been around for a long time to help not only find the most innovative and newest artists, but they're also a way, which is it's actually very important in our industry, to sort of vet that this creator is, first of all, a person and what their experience is, so they can't mismarket themselves, or at least we know that there's somebody behind it. So what we really want to do is we're going to be building out this module where there's going to be sort of a curator class, and they can come and choose all the artists and collectors that they've curated. And so I sort of equate it to the wine industry. It's really tough going into a wine shop and figuring out which bottle to get if you don't know anything about it. So what lots of retailers do is they put stickers saying that Robert Parker rated this 94 points and Wine Spectator rated this 89, but it's great value. We need those, because how do you decide on a bottle without some guidance? And so what we want to do is build out the curator ecosystem to help collectors find things that they might relate to. If they like past recommendations from a gallerist, maybe they'll like some of the future ones too.
That's interesting. And would you expect those roles to be taken up by traditional gallerists? I mean, that's what their role is, right? In the traditional art world, is essentially discovering and curating and presenting, new
Yeah.
artists and giving them context and giving them sort of validation. Would you see that being a tradition, or do you see this more as like DJs playlists on iTunes or on Spotify? You've got sort of almost celebrity DJs whose display lists would be celebrity VJs, I suppose, whose display lists would be sort of the ones that were most sought after or most popular.
Yeah, just given the nature of the industry being distributed, I think we want to allow for all different types of curators to play their own role. So we fully plan on inviting a number of traditional gallerists that are getting in this space, but we also want digitally native curators, the guys that were in this industry since the beginning, who sort of found their way. And we want to give everyone that opportunity to become their own curator.
Awesome.
Well, look, man, thank you so much. I know you're incredibly busy because building this thing out is an 18-hour a day, at least, sort of a job. and I really appreciate you taking the time to do this and share some of those insights and share some of that journey with us.
Yeah, gentlemen, this was a lot of fun. Thank you so much.
It was awesome, Aaron.
Awesome. All right. Thanks, Aaron.
Cheers.
See you
Take
soon.
care, you guys.
Take
Cheers.
care.
Bye-bye.
Well, there you go, man. That was Aaron Arfman, and he's such an intelligent guy, and he's thought so deeply about the industry, the business, the trends, the market. And I'm really grateful that he decided to do this, because he doesn't really like to do sort of quote unquote public speaking or talk about himself. Right. So I think we're pretty lucky to get him. Anything stand out for you
Definitely.
that you wanted to follow up on or comment on?
Oh, no, I mean, I just think that, the work that the guys are doing, having been in the space myself for some time, and having actually done a lot of the research across multiple chains in terms of, how data is being aggregated, how information is being presented, how information is being displayed, or NFTs are being displayed across the various blockchain ecosystems. And I can honestly say that it's super, super fragmented. There's not any one size fits all solution that really can sort of be the standout to bring collectors and curators and galleries together. And yeah, I can honestly say that this looks like a really interesting project, and hopefully they can grow to the vision that they've put forth and they've put out there, and more collectors would see the value in it. As artists as well, they would be just coming on and onboarding themselves and realizing that this is the place to be to display your work and to have a solution where you don't have to necessarily worry about setting up your own website and marketing what you're selling, that we can just create a hub for everything that brings everybody together. And I guess that's the goal, and hopefully they'll be able to see it through.
Yeah, cool. Well, this is, that's the message, right? This is where all the cool kids are hanging out.
Yeah.
Get your art up here, folks. And I guess we'll see that in action, because next week we've got Emil, don't we?
Yeah, next week we're going to be chatting to Emil Dogan. He's the CEO of the Zurich-based software development company Space7, and he also serves as the art director for the Tech Contemporary Gallery in Copenhagen, which I believe you have been there before, and Emil personally, Dave.
Yeah, that's right. I've been there, and they've got any wall displays up on their wall. It looks incredible, and they're running the Cur8 software there as well. So Emil will be able to tell us, about how that market is evolving in Copenhagen, and also just his experience with both Cur8 and the AnyWall hardware. So looking forward to that chat with him. So
should be a good one.
I guess that is us for today. Thanks, Dee. It was a good chat, and we will see you all on the next episode of The Great Wave.
Thanks, guys. Take it easy. Cheers.
Yeah. Ba-da-da-da-da-da.